Okay, what's up guys? Today I'm going to be doing a Vern commentary on the first Abyssal Dungeon, Alveria, just to show you the kind of mechanics and the things I was doing. Let's go. Alright, so there's nothing to this part here, we're just clearing some trash. Try to fill up your identity as much as possible, but given that it's tier 1, your identity actually doesn't fill very fast at all, so I wouldn't worry about it. It does get faster later on. I'm talking about in tier 3. So we're coming up to the first boss here, and the main mechanic of this boss is, first of all, he takes so long to spawn. The first 10 seconds or so, he's completely invulnerable, so don't waste any skills on him. Just keep auto-attacking like you see our gunslinger doing, and when you start doing damage, then you can start attacking him with your actual skills. Other than that, it's mainly just dodging the red AoEs. You see now that I have a blue crosshair on my screen, that means that he's going to shoot an AoE debuff on me that I want to take out of the raid. So now I'm kiting it away from the raid, I drop the red AoE, and then I go back in. More dodging of red circles, and I'm just trying to use all my abilities on cooldown. The main thing is that you use Heavenly Performance, my R button, and Sonic Vibration, my F button, and don't overlap the two, while trying to keep my Q and my A, that's my Sound Shock and my Stigma, also with as much uptime as possible to debuff the boss. You can see that the boss died really quickly because we're actually quite overgeared for this at this moment, but the same mechanics apply. If you're on item level, this is going to really hurt and it might take a little longer, but as long as you keep dodging and bringing the AoEs out, then you should be fine. So once you clear enough trash, you'll be at the next boss. And this boss has a lot of counter attacks, but they're also really hard to hit. You can see he teleports and flashes blue. So if you happen to be standing there, you can try to go for the counter by hitting Rhythm Buckshot, which is your D. For other classes, you'll each have a counter attack, and it's up to you to read your skills and figure out which one of your moves is a counter attack. Note that it has to be a head attack, which means you have to be standing directly in front of the boss to do a counter. If you're behind the boss, it's not going to work. For the most part, this boss is also just dodging red AoEs. When you see this red aura around you, it means that it's going to explode a few seconds after, so make sure you're not standing on top of any of your allies, and the boss should go down pretty quickly. From time to time, the boss will spawn these orange balls. All you have to do is stand next to the ball and he'll teleport to you. When the boss teleports to you, he'll do a whirlwind attack that will actually break this ball. What you need to do is bait the boss to each of these balls around the 4 corners, get him to break it, and then dash away to dodge the explosion. At the end of the dungeon, make sure you buy the extra bonus reward, as it gives a bunch of materials and it only costs 30 gold. Keep in mind you make 80 gold from this dungeon, so you're still netting a positive of 50 gold. You can see here I got 70 destruction stones, 210 guardian stones, 10 leap stones, and 1000 harmony shards, as well as a bunch of accessories. I think it's definitely worth doing if you're trying to progress on that character. This is Demon Beast's Roar, the second half of the Vern Abyssal Dungeon. And just like the first one, it starts off with a bunch of trash, which is not really anything special, so I'll be skipping through this. Now shortly you'll get to the first boss, which is a dragon boss. The main mechanic of this fight is that, well, first of all, again, whenever he flashes blue, you want to hit a counter attack. You can see our warlord Banzo was standing in front of the boss and he hit a counter at really good timing, which knocks the boss down for a short time. Again, for my skills, I'll just pause the video here so I can talk about them briefly. You want to make sure your 2 attack buffs, Heavenly Tune and Sonic Vibration, are going as much as possible without overlapping. So I'll usually cast Heavenly Tune first because it affects everyone, and after the 7 seconds are over, I will use Sonic Vibration near the end of my Heavenly Tune duration. The same thing goes for Sound Shock and Stigma. You want to alternate between the two and apply the debuff, which makes the party members do 10% more damage as much as possible. You can see that the way I have my skills set up, I have the 2 attack buffs positioned on top of each other and my 2 debuff skills positioned on top of each other. The reason I do this is so I can quickly look at them and look at both cooldowns at a glance without having to look at both sides of my hotbar to figure out the 2 different cooldowns. The same thing goes for my Wind of Music, my W, and my Guardian Tune, which is on my E. These are my 2 protective or shield skills. The general theory is that I like to group all my skills based on their function so I can quickly look at their cooldowns together. So this is the first mechanic, Death's Gaze. He'll do a red AoE pulse and it applies a stack of Death's Gaze to everyone. You can see that on top of my head, I now have a red orb, which indicates that I have 1 stack of Death's Gaze. Now the main mechanic of this fight is that if anyone reaches 5 stacks of Death's Gaze, it's going to cause a party wipe. So the way you remove this debuff is by periodically using these yellow orbs that spawn around the map, which removes all stacks of Death's Gaze. So who can go to what orb and what order you go in? The easiest way and the common way that we do in Korea is that you go by party number. If you look on the left, you see that every person has a number next to their name. This is referred to as your party number, and this is going to be a really important thing to know because a lot of mechanics in Legion raids and above go based on your party number. So you can see here that my number is 4, and the easiest way to determine the orb order is to just go in order of party. That means that I'll be taking the orb 4th, our gunslinger Tulls will be taking the orb 1st, our warlord will be taking it 2nd, and our second warlord Banza will be taking the orb 3rd. That way you don't really have to communicate when the orb spawns, like who's going where, who's going to take it, wasting time and potentially causing a wipe. So you can see here on my screen here, Tulls, who was number 1, our gunslinger, he has no red orb on his head anymore. That's because he was number 1 and he's used the yellow orb that spawned at the bottom of your screen. The spawn location is random, so you have to keep an eye out for where it spawns. Other than that, it's just hitting the boss and dodging the red AoEs. You can see here now I have 2 stacks of Death's Gaze, and it's now up to our second warlord to eat his orbs because he is number 2. In the case of most parties, if you have enough DPS, you'll be able to kill the boss before everyone has to take an orb, but in case you don't, for example, if you're doing this exactly at item level 340, you might have to cycle back through the order. So after everyone's taken their orb, including myself, who was number 4, then our number 1 would start to take the next orb again, and you would just keep going and hopefully kill the boss before the berserk timer. I'm gonna skip ahead here to the second boss. This boss can be difficult if you don't know what you're doing. The actual mechanic is easy, but especially if you're doing this on item level at item level 340, this boss really hurts and can just cause a lot of problems for you. So just try to dodge as best as possible. He has a lot of really wide AoE attacks, so it helps a lot if you can start to recognize the patterns. Whenever he flashes blue like that, you can see you can hit a counter attack. We were all standing in front of the boss and our gunslinger Tulls managed to hit the counter. This is the first mechanic of the boss. You can see that there, whenever he dies, he becomes invincible, and around the map at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock, there will be 2 orbs that spawn, one red and one white. Depending on the color that flashes when he dies, you'll want to go and touch the appropriate orb by hitting G. If everyone blocks off the correct orb, he'll respawn but with less HP. If people fail this mechanic and you, for example, touch the wrong color, or if you don't touch any orbs at all, he'll keep respawning until you complete this mechanic properly. And you have to do this mechanic 2 or 3 times, so you have to kill him 2 or 3 times, which is the flavor of this boss. The easiest way to determine who goes where, again, is party number. You can see that I'm number 4, so the easiest way to tell who needs to go to what position is your party number times 3. Because the orbs spawn at 12, 3, 6, and 9, this usually works out perfectly. So party number 1 should go to 3 o'clock, party number 2 should go to 6 o'clock, party number 3 should go to 3 o'clock, and of course party number 4, which is me, goes to 12 o'clock, which is the position I'm in now. All you have to do is go and hit G on the correct color. So I'll show you the flash once again in case you missed it. Pay attention, when he dies, you'll see a white flash, which means I have to pick up the white orb. Did you see that? We'll look at that one more time. You can see this, the white flash. One more time, just in case. I'll try to pause it for better for you guys. Right here, you can see that there's a white pulse, and then afterwards, there's a bunch of red stuff on your screen. Just ignore that. That's a VFX, that's a graphic. It doesn't mean you need to pick up the red orb. You have to look at the white flash, and if you miss it, you missed it. So you can see here after this mechanic, the boss respawns with 15 bars of health, which means somebody did not get to their orb in time, or they clicked the wrong color. If you do this correctly, I believe he respawns with 11 bars, and then we have to kill him again here. Did you catch the color? Let's look at that one more time. So you can see here that the color is white again. So because I'm number 4, I'll go to my position, which is at 12 o'clock, 4 times 3. And then I will hit G or click on the white orb. If everyone does this correctly, he again respawns, this time with only 8 bars, and that means we have to kill him one more time. Pay attention here, and the color is red. So I'll go to my spot, and this time I'll click the red orb. And as you can see, after doing the mechanic properly a few times, the boss will die. And that's it. Those are the first 2 dungeons, Abyssal Dungeons, that you'll encounter at Vern at level 340. Remember to buy the box because I do think it is worth it. Again, you get a ton of materials, a chance at a card pack, and even a bunch of accessories. I hope this kind of gave you a quick look as to how I did my first Abyssal Dungeon. If you enjoyed this content, leave me a comment so I know, and then I can make one for Rohendel as well, and probably for other content going forward. This is my first kind of commentary type video, so if there's anything I can improve on or anything else you would like me to elaborate on while I do these, just let me know in the comments. All your feedback is really appreciated. I know I'm not going over too much about what skills I'm using and why, but at this point, you can pretty much spam all your skills as long as you don't do the things I mentioned, like overlapping your attack buffs and overlapping your debuffs. As long as you make sure you don't do that, then you could basically just spam everything else on cooldown and you'll be pretty effective. Later on, when the fights get more complex, you want to shy away from this, but as a beginner, as a bard especially, I would recommend you don't worry too much about using your abilities rather than doing the mechanic properly. Anyway, that's gonna be it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any more questions, I'm usually live on Twitch these days, so come over to my live stream and just ask me there. I always try to get back to your YouTube comments as well, but these days I've been working on just getting out as much content as possible, so if I don't reply to you right away, I'm sorry in advance. This has been IU, and until next time, bye you.